Welcome back to the Grow Your Nutrition Business podcast powered by HSN Mentoring. At Healthy Steps Nutrition, our mission is to help 1 million people take control of their health one step at a time to prevent and reverse chronic disease. I know we can't do it alone, which is why we partner with gym owners and coaches that have their boots on the ground to use our proven framework to make a greater impact in their local community, empowering health, building a health-focused coaching program. In this podcast, you're going to learn all about how to build a successful nutrition coaching program so that you can make a greater impact. My name is Nicole Coyne, and I'm the founder of Healthy Steps Nutrition, home of HSN Mentoring. Today's podcast guest is someone who's been around the CrossFit space for a long time. He has 20 years of experience, a 7-time CrossFit Games athlete, and 13 years of experience in coach development. His name is Pat Barber. If you've been around CrossFit for a while, you know who he is. And I'm super excited about today's conversation. He talks about his personal journey and why he's so passionate about building successful coaches. And he defines what does an effective coach do. We talk about some key traits that separate average coaches from amazing coaches. And he also has created some free downloads for our listeners. So make sure that you grab those in the notes for this podcast. So excited for you to enjoy this podcast with Pat Barber. Pat, welcome to the Grow Your Nutrition Business podcast. Super excited about this conversation today.
I am also excited. It's going to be good fun.
We recently had a conversation at, well, I guess it wasn't recently, at the games. We talked all about nutrition. I was a little nervous going in, and now we're going to be talking all about coach development. You are a master at coach development. Let's kind of just, for those people who haven't had an opportunity to meet you or have heard your name but don't know your background, how did you become a coach? How long have you been doing coaching?
Yeah. It's actually really interesting because you were nervous going on our podcast. Now I'm super nervous coming on yours. How dare you flip the script like this? Bring me in, get me all nervous. Anyway, well, I was actually just this morning. Funny that you ask it like that. I just thinking about my coaching timeline and going like, okay, if I were to draw this graph out and look at all the steps along the way and all the things that I've done and the places that I've failed and succeeded and all that stuff, I kind of just drew a very rough timeline this morning, not all the steps, but I started coaching in 2004. And I coached, very first thing I did was volleyball, which is I was playing volleyball and I knew the sport really well. And I quit playing volleyball. Well, I didn't quit. I graduated from the high school I was at. And then very recently after that, got sucked back in to be a coach. And that was the first area that I got to coach in. And at the time I was actually doing CrossFit. It was when I started CrossFit. So I didn't know how to coach fitness and I didn't know how to coach movement, but I would make my players do the workouts. So I guess that would be my intro into coaching was 2004 with volleyball and then some movement stuff in the fitness there. And then it's been, I don't know how many steps you want along this journey, but I'm happy to tell you.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. So my husband played professional volleyball, and he actually joined a CrossFit gym around probably that same, a little bit after, but to get better at volleyball. So it's funny
Oh
that
yeah.
that's what you decided to do to help the volleyball players be able to
Yeah.
get better
Wait,
at
your
volleyball.
husband played professional. Where did he play volleyball?
Uh, he like beach volleyball. So
Oh,
he
that's
like
so
traveled
rad.
around. Yeah.
Oh man, so I played indoor 6-man and I've only in the last probably about 10 years really got into beach volleyball and I love it. And it's super fun. The next time we hang out, he and I will
Yeah.
have to pepper and play some. We'll bring it back. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, that would be funny. I'm sure he would absolutely love that. Okay, so let's get back to your coaching journey. So you were coaching
Okay.
volleyball. When did you become a CrossFit coach? What made you decide you wanted to become a CrossFit coach?
Yeah, it was actually a super interesting journey, and I was thinking about that again this morning. But like Tony Budding, he was the original media director for all of CrossFit. He was the one who filmed all the original videos. It was like CrossFit just had a website. There was no photos, and he taught himself how to film and edit video and take photos just so he could post CrossFit stuff. And so the original CrossFit.com was all his photos for the most part. And he was my old high school teacher, and he was the one who brought me into CrossFit. And
Okay.
I, at one point in time, was working for him, filming and editing video because I didn't have a job at the time. I was working at a restaurant, so I left that and he would fly me around the country, and I would go to CrossFit seminars, and I would see all these amazing old coaches. And that was back in the day when there was like, the CrossFit seminars were all taught by specialists. So Greg would come in and teach the CrossFit stuff, and maybe Dave would lecture or Nicole would lecture, but it usually was just Greg. And then you'd have like Buddy Lee teach a jump rope section, and Mike Bergner teach the lifting section, and you'd have Rob Wolf teach nutrition, and then you'd have Mark Ripito teach powerlifting, and it was like that's what the old
Wow.
seminars were. Yeah, it was cool, and so I filmed all those. And at the time, I was kind of looking for what direction I wanted to take my life in terms of, I was still coaching volleyball, but I didn't really have a vision of being a trainer, so to speak, or a coach in that way. And I remember Tony sitting me down one day, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to take the seminar as a participant instead of just film it?" And I was like, "I don't know. Like, I think I might be okay at coaching." And he's like, "You've got a lot of going for you in the coaching world, like in terms of training other people, because the movements come easy to you. You kind of live and look like a trainer, so like that might be something that would assist you." And I was like, "I don't know what that means, but okay, dude."
Okay.
Yeah. um, and I remember sitting at lunch with him, and the genesis, or like the gist of that entire conversation was like, I knew I didn't want to be Tony. Like I knew I didn't want to be him. And he was like, he woke up at 4 a.m. He started working at 5 a.m. He would work till 8:30 at night, 9 o'clock at night, and then go to sleep and do the same thing every day. And it was all like online and editing video and building all the stuff, and it was very much like a not the style of work that I wanted to do. And he's like, "A coach might be a good option for you." So I was like,
You get to be
so I was
around
like,
people.
exactly. I'm like, I love that stuff. Like the talking with people, and I'm an extrovert by nature, and I really enjoyed that. But I didn't like exercise science. I didn't like exercise physiology. I actually went to school for a year for it and left because I was like, I hate this. Like these people just like complaining about what it's called, and looking at studies really, really closely, and like not the practical application side of it. So
Yeah.
I was actually at the time studying voice and musical theater in school. So I was doing singing and dancing, and because that was far more interesting to me. And in that moment, in that conversation, I was like, you know what? I'll do it. So I went
Yeah.
and I started training people. The original CrossFit Santa Cruz is where I started as a coach. And they had just broken off and moved locations because they split from the original gym into four gyms. It was CrossFit Santa Cruz became CrossFit North Santa Cruz, CrossFit Santa Cruz Central, CrossFit Santa Cruz, and then another CrossFit. But the actual original gym needed some coaches, and they were like, "Hey, you want to come run some classes?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." But
Yeah.
the way they did classes was you got given a time slot and you had to fill the class. So like you wouldn't get given people, you would get given a time, and then you had to bring the people. And
Okay.
so I didn't know anyone. So I had my girlfriend and I had my buddy who was a volleyball player who was like, "I'd like to try this CrossFit stuff." And he paid me in SpongeBob checks, and he was my first client. And so I started a 3 o'clock class in the afternoon, and just started coaching and just winging it from the beginning. And again, it's been a long, long journey since then, but that was the start.
Wow. It's crazy to think like back that 3 o'clock class, I'm sure, thinking about how you were coaching then to what you would do now running that
Oh,
same 3 o'clock class.
yes. Yes. I mean, it's very different. That being said, I was just thinking about this the other day. One of the things that I got gifted very early on was that experience of seeing all those amazing coaches, right?
Hmm.
So the people that I all mentioned just previous, they're all amazing in their own way, and they all delivered stuff, and their brains were so big when it came to their specific area of greatness. And I got to sit and edit all that video and look at it over and over again. So the methodology and the understanding and the education all just got like organically beat into my head, to where
Yeah.
when someone would ask me a question, I can be like, I
Here's
kind
the
of know
answer.
the answer. Like here we go, you know? Um, but I think more important than that is that I had a couple coaches in my initial start that were very big sticklers on like very nuancy movement details. Like they
Okay.
over prioritized the subtlety of movement. And I don't think that that's where coaches should live. Like I think when you're coaching normal people, it's more about the bigger experience, and like the bigger things carry most of the effect of what we're doing. You know, it's not the little details. But when you start, if you focus on the little details, it sets the foundation to see stuff better, to make it so like your standards are higher, and it's just like it sets a really good framework. So even from the beginning, I had this like kind of over importance of movement standards and detail as like a foundation that I could then use my personality to like fill in the gaps, you know, like where,
Yeah.
so I think I got gifted that in the beginning of like these examples of guys and gals who were just very good at what they did and were really overly emphasized little details. So yeah, that was a great place to start. But yeah, so I definitely started much worse than I am now, but I still got to start with like this good foundation of like, hey, hold people accountable, hold them to these high standards. Everyone needs to move well. And I'm like, okay, you know, like I guess
Yeah.
that's what we do.
Yeah. And care, right?
And care and the
And
shirt.
care. Yes.
Well,
Well, talk to me about some of the mistakes that you see. Actually, let's keep going with the coach journey. So,
sure.
you became a coach, you're coaching the 3 o'clock. When did you start developing other coaches and really find this passion for helping other coaches get better?
Yeah, that's been a wild journey for me because, you know, where this comes from and where developing others comes from is usually a need, right? So you're like, okay, I need someone to help me coach, so I need to bring someone on board to do this with me. And that's usually when you can move into like an ownership role or like a head coach role. So my initial years were not under that. It was more in the realm of I was just a coach at a gym. And then I think the first kind of not development role, but the first kind of leadership role that I had is I got hired by level one staff to teach
Mhm.
level ones and level twos. And even then, though, you're still just presenting information. You're not like really responsible for developing other coaches. You're just like, let me convey this information to you. So it's still the same general process of just coaching because it's only a 2 day course. But like actually developing other coaches, that process happened in 2011 when I ended up moving from Santa Cruz to New Zealand. And I became well, I worked for my wife, who now wife. Her name is Tamarin Fenter, but Barber now because we're married. But she owned CrossFit New Zealand, and we met in 2009 competing at the games together. And I worked online for a company called Again Faster, and I could travel. And I had just stopped working for CrossFit Media, and I'm like, let's go. I'll move to New Zealand. So I moved out to New Zealand, and she had this like pre-established epic gym. Like she was the first person I'd ever seen write lesson plans. She had an amazing community. She had this like really quirky, weird little space, but like people were just in there throwing down. It was before in New Zealand you could even get nice gear. So all the bars were janky and the plates were like these terrible plates shipped from China that were all oblong and weird. And like I was it was like going back in time for my CrossFit career, like to when we first started and you couldn't find good gear. Anyway, so she was running this gym out there and they had this thriving awesome community, but I just had like a different perspective on some of the coaching. And I became
Mhm.
a coach at her gym, and then they moved into a bigger spot and they brought in this like cadre of coaches, like all these members who ran the potential of being awesome coaches because they were awesome people. And so I kind of got not put in charge, but I was like involved in the development of them because the
Okay.
two business owners, my wife and the other guy named Darren, they were running other stuff. So I got the opportunity to work with them and develop them because I was teaching seminars and they figured I had some education.
Yeah.
So that was my first experience into developing coaches. And much like when you first start coaching, you are minimally effective. um like when you first start developing other people, you're like okay, I know how to do all this. how do I get you to do it? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just going to tell you to do it, and hopefully you do it. And what I did start to realize is like, I know I'm effective. So then I have to go, okay, what about me makes me effective? And that was my initial coaching development lens. It was like, okay, what about my perspective, my lens makes me effective at delivering this material? And then we have to go, okay, well, what is effective? And then we go, effective means they move well. Awesome. Effective means they have a good time. Awesome. Effective means that they start class on time, they finish class on time. Awesome. Effective means that they warm up well. Awesome. So we start to create these measurable metrics for what makes someone effective. And then we start transferring these metrics onto other people, whether it be through teaching them one thing and doing drills, or whether it be the biggest thing was modeling it for them. So, was I able to actually execute on all the things that I was asking for my people? And luckily, in our spaces, we had that. Like I was a good coach. My wife was a good coach. Darren, the other coach that was there, was a good coach. And all these coaches got to come up under three good coaches. And
Hmm.
it made development way easier because it's like they're just trying to mimic what you're doing, and then you're just like spurring along little bits of education. So that was my first bit of development that I think I would say I did.
Wow. That's really interesting. I think clearly you have a quest for learning and evolving and a growth mindset to be like, all right, I got this thing. I want to do a little bit better and teach other people so that we can be more effective together. Talk to me about your role with coach development now, and then we'll dive into some like actual practical tips for coaches to help them develop.
Sure. Yeah. My role with coach development now is like that's my full-time gig. And I've been like uniquely doing this for a long time. Like I said, from 2000, that was 2011. I did it 2010, 2011 was when I was doing it with New Zealand. And then when I moved back to the States in 2012, I started up NorCal CrossFit with Jason Khalipa. He transferred his gym name and we started up NorCal CrossFit. And then we took that from like three gyms to 22 gyms worldwide. And I ended up being in charge of all of coaching development across all those gyms because that was kind of what I was doing well. And so I would develop really good coaches and then we put them in charge of other gyms and they would run stuff. So that was like that was the full on like, hey, you're no longer coaching much anymore. You're just developing coaches. So that was the biggest kind of tinker zone time was those years. And then from there, I moved off into running warm up and workout, which was my affiliate programming company. And then level one, level two staff, which I was doing this whole time. And then now the full circle, I'm here at Best Hour running the knowledge, and the knowledge is just coaching development. We've got a coaching development library, which is just essentially 600 plus videos with a new one each day of content geared towards CrossFit coaches, how to be better in practical ways as well as like ethereal, heady ways. And then our small group mentorship, where we have people all call in on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we do go over lessons and practical videos and everything in between. So right now, my coaching development is like continued work with coaches, both in video format and in kind of small group cohorts, to take whatever skills they currently have and make them slightly better over time. Because that's all you can do. Like you
Yeah.
can't a lot of people think of development as like, hey, we'll do one session, it'll be good. And you're like, no, that's not that's not how this works. There's
No.
there's like, even if I could give you all the answers, you have to go and apply these answers. And so one of the things I've struggled with over time is like people will come and ask for like, hey, how do I get better at this? I'm like, okay, well, one is time, but two, you have to have like the direction that you're heading. And I think that's where I'm at now when it comes to helping people is I can be like, hey, where are you at? Awesome. Let's try to focus here and make sure we have the right bearing. And then we'll kind of keep heading this direction. And anytime you feel like you're steering off course, ask me a question. I'll be like, cool, this is the direction that you should probably head from here. Um, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now is like I'm in this place of developing content that speaks to the practical parts of coaching as well as the psychological parts of coaching, and then also working hands-on with small groups of people to help them continue to educate themselves, but also film the framework of what direction they should head and help shape their lens.
I've seen a number of people that Best Hour posts that have taken their level three and gotten their level three. And a lot
Yeah.
of them will say, hey, it's because of the knowledge. It's because
Mhm.
that you guys have helped them through the videos. But then also, is it the small group cohorts that those are the people looking to do their level three, level fours? Is that typically who's joining those cohorts?
Yes, yes, but there are also, I mean, there's two different types of people, right? There's people who are extremely self-motivated, who can just be like, look, I'm gonna just expose myself to all the information, and I'm gonna keep doing it until I truly understand it. I'm gonna go on this video, I'm gonna ask the question, I'm gonna do the thing. And then there's people who kind of need to just be in the conversation more often, and they need to hear other people asking the questions, and then them being like, oh, I have a thing here, and then and jumping in and going through it all. And so we kind of have those two areas met with the two offerings. So the Knowledge Daily, which is just the self-guided videos, that's far more of like a, it's there, like use it if you want. I mean, the way
Yeah.
I personally use that or would use that would be like if I'm going to class the next day, I'd be like, what's my complicated movement that I'm teaching? I just type in the little search bar, say it's a clean, I type in clean, and then just look at a couple videos on the clean to refresh some ideas for teaching the clean because stuff would pop up. But I think a lot of the people who are in the small cohort, they want more of that hands-on back and forth. Like I have this specific question, I want to ask you it here. I want to hear you talk about it. I want to hear like ask you a question again after you phrase something there. So I would say that it just kind of speaks to the different types of people.
Yeah.
I think there's more value in the Knowledge Pro. Yeah, that's why it's more
Yeah.
expensive. And
Yeah.
we're there and we're live, and there's something unique to a live conversation. But you also have access to the knowledge as well. So like when you're in the Knowledge Pro, you get access to both sides. The knowledge or the level 3 is an interesting one because the level 3 is it's it doesn't mean you're a good coach. It's because it's just a test, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you can have people who test great but are garbage at delivery. And it's like and you can have somebody who doesn't test well who's just a fantastic at delivery. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of what happens with the level 3 I think for people is they have a working understanding of some of this information, but they don't know it deep enough, and they have maybe like little misunderstandings that actually throw off your overall ability to answer questions that come up. So, for instance, like you'll hear someone say the definition of fitness, and they'll say fitness is increased work capacity across broad time modal domains, and you're like, okay, that's really close. Fitness is just the work capacity across broad time modal domains. Increase, that little section at the front, is what we say we're trying to do by doing CrossFit. So the
Mm-hmm.
nuance there is that like fitness isn't an increase in work capacity. Fitness is just the work capacity across broad time modal domains, but you're trying to increase it by doing CrossFit. And even that little misunderstanding of like, if you say fitness is an increase in work capacity, it's going to tell me that you don't fully grip what we're saying here. And that's okay for like daily coaching, but that's not okay for high level testing. so so that's something that'll happen on those kind of small group calls where stuff's being presented and we're asking questions, we're going back and forth, that we can be like, let's why don't you, what does this mean in this way, or how can we unpack this the simplest way? Because I mean, if you've gone through the information that CrossFit puts out and Greg has written over the years, like a lot of it is written in words that don't make sense to normal people. Like unless you've spent 20 years just like trying to understand this in normal language, you're gonna be like, what? You're like, the independent variable most commonly associated with maximizing the rate of return of favorable adaptation. Like, oh, make good shit happen fast. Gotcha. All right, that's why we use intensity. And so I think one thing that we can do, or I'm able to do now, and a lot of my level 4 staff that I work with are able to do now, is like unpack the complexity in a way that's digestible. And that's our goal, is because we've had to struggle through it for years. And we're like, these epiphanies have happened over the last 20 years. To I don't need you to sit and struggle with it for 15 years the same way I did. I can make that journey a little shorter. So yeah.
I love that. Those are some really great examples. And I think we read things, we read articles, and being able to take that and really understand it and apply it to create a better coaching experience doesn't always translate in that way unless you have help from experts for sure. Let's talk about
Totally.
coaching. Like, what makes a great coach? For coaches that are brand new, let's start there. What should they be thinking about in regards to developing?
hmm Um, I think you always have to start with the basics. I mean, I did just say be focused on good movement as a foundation. I really do think that prioritizing standards and movement very early on will set your eye up for better success down the road. So holding higher standards initially, while difficult when it comes to navigating human relationships, will make it so that as you develop, you actually have a higher standard as your like just your kind of raw foundation. If you don't have a higher standard when you start, when it comes to the nuance of human movement, then you're gonna let basic things go for a long time. And all of a sudden you'll find yourself down the road, someone being like, hey, why didn't you correct that? And you'll be like, I don't even see it because you've let your eye adjust to being having low standards, so to speak. So I think a foundational piece is basically having higher standards at the beginning. But where to have higher standards specifically is at the level 2, they talk a lot about those 6 criteria of an effective coach, right? And those 6 criteria are teaching, seeing, correcting, presence and attitude, group management, and demonstration. So these are kind of our 6 area that we can always look at to modulate. And they're very measurable in all these areas. And the goal would be to like you examine those 6 areas and you go, okay, which of these areas do I naturally excel at? Some people, they're really good at group management. You know why? Because they plan. They're planners. They like to think the night before and they sit down and they write it all out and they're like, cool, I know exactly what I'm doing. And they go in with this awesome plan. Some people are really good at presence and attitude. They understand how to stand in front of a group and speak. They're the type of person that people want to listen to. And they're like, hey, like I know how to navigate that really well. Some people have both. Some people have neither. Like these are all things that we can look to modulate and get better at. When it comes to the basics of coaching, though, when you're first starting, the first 3, teaching, seeing, and correcting, that's your baby. Like that speaks to that having high standards with regards to those 3 things. Teaching is the ability to take complex stuff and make it simple for the people who are in front of you. So just being like, I want you to do this. And not say, I want you to do the world's fastest movement. It's called the clean. It involves triple extension. And in the triple extension, we're going to pull ourselves around it after we fully extend the hip and pull it. It's like, don't do that shit. Just be like, we're going to do a clean. It looks like this. Now, first put your feet under your heels or your heels under your hips, whatever it is. So it's the ability to deliver information in very simple ways. Is that teaching? So to remove complexity. And then the seeing correcting is basically having a standard in your head of looking for potential faults. So things that are going wrong in front of you. Those faults are centered around the points of performance that are all written for every movement in the kind of manuals that we CrossFit offers, and then correcting those faults. So noting that they exist and then finding a correction for them. So teaching, seeing, correcting, I'd say that's your foundation for when you're starting. Like hammer home those things. What are my faults? Like how can I relay information simply? What are my faults that I need to find? When I find them, what is 1 to 2 word cues that I can give to make people no longer do them?
Super helpful for beginner coaches. Let's talk about coaches that have been around for a while. What are some things that you see from experienced coaches where you're like, hey, this needs we can get better in this area? Yeah, let's start there.
Yeah. Do you mean like really experienced coaches or like midterm experienced coaches? Like they've gone past those beginner stages. Now they're in kind of like those intermediate, like I'm starting to know some stuff stages.
Yeah, I think we're there, right? Like not your level. I've been doing this for 20 years, but maybe like the 5 to 10 year people.
Yeah. I would say making sure you're continuing to have a growth mindset in those
Mm.
stages. I think those are kind of the areas where you get this sense of confidence that you've learned some stuff and you're like, I know it. I know the stuff now. Like I'm gonna start to dig my heels in and say, this is the way. And just I've done some stuff that's worked really well for me. So I'm gonna say that this is what we do and this is how we do it. And I'd say some of the biggest pitfalls in those areas are to to not see how wrong you are about the subtlety of what you're doing, and to really dig your heels into a specific ideology or position. So if you're in those middle age stages, it's really about like continuing to always want to be the beginner, like continuing to be super curious about why someone presents something differently, or what's happening that's in front of you, or paying attention to the results of what you're doing. So like when you deliver a cue, are you looking to see that it's actually having the result, or are you just assuming it's having the result because it happened 90% of the time when you say that cue, it works. So I would say those middle stages are continuing to be curious and not to think that you figured it out. And I don't know if you can actually do that. I don't know if you can actually skip the stages where you think you're awesome, and then someone much smarter than you has to prove you wrong like 50 times for you to go, oh, I'm an idiot. I know for me that's like that was a very confronting time where I'm like, dude, like, I mean, I spoke about it during my development time, right? Where I'm like, hey, I know I'm effective. I know that what I do is effective. So then I'm trying to make everyone me. And I'm like, oh, that's dumb. Not everyone's me. And I'm not the only way that can be effective. But in those times when you're young and developing, or not even young, but you're young in your coaching career, you're like, I think I've got it. But what you're going to start to end up realizing is that there's many different ways for attacking things, uh, from different angles to where you can be more overall effective. And so I would say in those middle stages, it's being continuing to be flexible, continuing to be curious, and seeking mentorship, seeking people who are like, hey, they've been here before. What makes them them versus me, and always be kind of finding those things. So I would say those middle stages. It's about that curiosity, and that the trying to avoid, you know, hunkering down into a position too hard.
I think for many affiliate owners, they're going to have that season confronted with them this
Yeah.
year or last year, if they haven't done their level 2 yet. I remember
Oh
doing
yeah.
mine, gosh, I guess it was like 7 years ago at this point. But it was a eye-opening experience for me, making me realize I do
Oh,
not know as much as I think I know about coaching, and
dude.
we just need to be on a quest to get better and improve, which is awesome. I think that the level 2 is an amazing experience, and everyone should do it.
No.
And I'm actually excited that owners have to do it. And I think sometimes as a gym owner, you know, you're evaluating other coaches, you're helping develop other coaches. When are you developing yourself? And
Totally.
sometimes you get in a rut.
Yeah. Yeah. You can absolutely get it right.
What are some tips that you have for owners to develop coaches?
Uh, well, there's a few.
Yeah. Give me your top
uh,
3.
I'll give you my top three. I'm like, number one, there needs to be somebody you can point to who you say, that's great.
Okay.
That's great. Do that. And ideally, that's either you or a head coach in your facility who's like banger, like they're really good. Now, the problem is not all gyms have that. Like they
Yeah.
they they might have people who represent components that are great. Like, hey, I want you to see how he manages the energy of class. Awesome. I want you to see how she handles the structure of class. Awesome. So if you don't have someone that truly embodies what's great, then try to find the great pieces of the coaches that you do have and highlight those pieces for somebody who's developing. I think that's a huge deal, because you don't really know what's possible till you see it done. And if you're just looking at the whole package of a person who's fundamentally flawed but has some greatness, you need to be cued into their greatness to focus on that. And the more you can articulate that well and see those things, the better you'll be at developing new coaches. So find, ideally, you have someone who's great. If not, make that someone be an avatar, a combined connection of all the people that you have.
Okay.
Another thing to do is you can just log into our app and watch people who teach level 4 classes and do it really well. CrossFit's put some out too. Nicole Christensen has some classes there. Brittany Kincaid has a class that popped out on YouTube, CrossFit's YouTube, CrossFit Training's YouTube. But get examples of greatness that you can aspire to. So I'd say that's one. I'd say number two is less is more. When you first start developing, you have to like I would say like it's really easy to watch a class and just be like, even if you've got an evaluation sheet, because Best Hour has these downloadable evaluation sheets you can use and stuff, where you'll go through and you'll just be like, boom, 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 like, and you can go through a class and be like, hey, 90% of that class was shit. And you did like two things well. And it, like, because the reality is like most people are in really early learning stages of what they're doing. So like you could pick things totally apart. And so if you were to give them everything, it not only is it going to be so overwhelming that it's like it's painful and beyond useful, but I think it's too much to actually learn from. It's the same thing as like picture someone's doing an air squat and you're like, hey, I want you to go deeper, push your knees out, lift your chest up, shift back to your heels, and make sure your belly's braced. You're like, well, which one of those things should I focus on? It's like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, ideally they should focus on all of them, but what's the most important? Hey, on this next one, I want you to think about really squeezing your stomach. Awesome. And then you get a couple reps in. Okay, now push your knees out while you're doing that. Great. Get a couple reps in. Are you doing the squeeze stomach and squeeze push the knees out? Awesome. Now on this next one, 3 reps later, can you also sit back in your heels? It's the same sort of deal with development. If you sit with your coach and you're like, da 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 da, and there's all shit, and you hand it to them, they're like, oh, they go away, and it's hard to even take that on board and go into the next class. So I would say when you review a class, you can write all the things that go on, like that's fine. But then you have to go, okay, what of these would move the needle the most for the coach to be effective for my people? So you have to go, what's the most important to me? Well, these people need to start on time and leave on time. Like maybe that's the most important thing that happened in that class, to be like, hey, next class, even though they got 10 things wrong, I need you to get them out of here 2 minutes early. How can we do that? And they're like, well, what if I, made sure that I allotted my timeline ahead of time and planned better in this one? It's like, great, let's do that. Next class, just focus on planning better to finish 5 minutes early. And since you always go 3 minutes over, you'll probably end up
Right on
two
time.
minutes early. Yeah, right on time. And then giving a strategy and then sitting with that for a couple weeks and saying, and keep checking back on that, how it's going. And then the next time layer in another thing. So I would say strategy number two for developing people is less is more, and try to find the biggest marker of change and do that. Know that it's just like your athletes. Like the goal is not to be a better coach tomorrow; it's to be a better coach 20 years from now. And these little things will be the foundation that you work off of. So that's one, two. What was the
I have a
next one?
question about this. How
Sure.
often should owners be evaluating coaches?
Um, I think it depends on the culture that you have. I
Hmm.
I I was always of the mindset that like at the gyms that we ran, because we created a very feedback driven culture where it was like, hey, if I finished class and it wasn't good, you can come up and be like, hey, that wasn't good. And I'd be like, cool, why? And they'd be like, it wasn't good because of this. And I'd be like, oh, okay, I'll try that next time, even if I didn't agree with you. So we were always like little piece of feedback every class, post class. Like if there was something to be said there, oftentimes there wouldn't be. And then official evaluations were like once a month sort of deal. Once a month, we were getting in and doing like get in and write a bigger thing up and say, hey, here's some direction and structure. You can go there. But it depends on the culture. But I think at a minimum, once a month or once every 2 months, depends on the coach's overall investment in the community. Like if they coach one class a week and you're reviewing them once a month, it's one every 4 classes. So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah,
So maybe, but if they're like more full time, I would say like once a month.
perfect. Okay. I think those are really great pieces of feedback. Give someone to look at for what is a really good example. And if you don't have that in your gym, then going to the knowledge or going online to CrossFit training to find that so that people can see what does a good example look like. And then giving feedback. And when you give feedback, don't do 20 different things. Less is more, one thing at a time. I think that's really
Yeah.
good. Really good tips.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a coach who is coaching a class with a number of different types of people. Maybe you've got the brand new 65-year-old that tells you they can barely squat, and you've got the athlete. How do you manage your time to make sure that everyone's seen, heard, valued, and gets
Totally.
a great coaching experience?
Totally. Um, I think part of that is learning to navigate groups of people with less groups moving into more groups, right? So the original way, ideally, that you would learn to coach people is through one-on-ones, and then two-on-ones, and then three-on-ones, and then four-on-ones, then five-on-ones. But it doesn't happen like that, unfortunately, at a lot of gyms, where it'll be like, hey, you passed your level one Monday, 6 a.m. class, jump in. You're like, oh shit,
Here you
15
go.
people, 0 to 15. Here we go. So there becomes a much harder it becomes hard because you didn't really get to develop with that one-on-one, those interpersonal quick skills of like, let me check in on you, give you a cue, and then move on. Um, so I'd say first, make sure you can like try to go back if you haven't had that opportunity and develop your one-on-one skills. One-on-one with like one-on-one training or a small group training, one-on-two. I think another thing that's really good to do as a coach is to develop your ability to train new people. So a way to do that is teaching the on-ramp classes or being in charge of onboarding people into gyms. Like you develop a set of tactics and words that work really well with like people who have no idea what these movement things are. And you only develop that by having to do it. And unfortunately, if you get tossed into a 15-person class of people who've already kind of learned, you can say, everybody get to your clean stance, and everyone kind of knows how to get to their clean stance. Whereas if you said that to a new group of people, they'd stare at you really funny, and then you'd learn, oh, I didn't teach you that. I'm an idiot. I urge you to go back and learn those things, if at all possible. Now, if you don't, and you don't have that luxury, and you have to get tossed into a group, and you're trying to navigate these more varied classes, I think one of the things to do is have a good plan going in. If you're winging it, you're kind of screwed. So you have to do your good plan going in of like, okay, here's my timeline, roughly, my 10 minutes at the end, my 10 minutes at the front, my general warm up, my workout, and my skill specific warm up. Now, within those places, I've got my general time set up. What am I going to say to mitigate some of my problems I might have for a varied class at the very front? Like, okay, when I'm briefing the class, do I give a couple scales? Do I let people know that I'm going to take care of them? Do I brief the stimulus? Do I get everything set up in a way that makes sense? So make sure the brief makes sense, and you've practiced the brief, and people know that there's going to be options for them even if they're brand new. So put people at ease emotionally on the competitive side as well as the just looking to survive side. Um, I just created that side now, but it's definitely a real side, and I've seen
It's a
those.
side.
And
It's
like
a side.
it's a side for sure. And so then when we move into the general warm up is your ability to, because it's going to be probably dumber movements, and I mean dumber by there's not a complexity to them. It's usually like light rowing and jogging and some jumping jacks and some, like, that's your job. That's your time to come in around and like use your eyes to assess and check where people are at. So if you don't know all their levels, this is where you can kind of check in on a personal level. How you feeling with this? Hey, remember in the workout we said clean? What are you thinking about that for today? Oh, I've never done a clean before. Awesome. I'll make note of that because we move forward. We're going to have a time where we go through it. So that general warm up is a place for you to really get a sense of what's going on and to put out some fires before they start. Hey, when we move to the clean, I want you grabbing a PVC pipe instead of a barbell. So things like that are good to do in a general warm up while also setting the tone and connecting with everyone. Now, you can do it on the other end of the spectrum too, where you connect with people who are like more experienced. Like, hey, what are you thinking for the workout today? Oh, I was thinking I'm gonna crush it with blah blah blah. Cool. Jim did it earlier in 2 minutes. Do you think you can beat him and do it in a minute and 45? I do think I can. All right, awesome. Well, I think in order to do that, you're gonna have to go unbroken on those wall balls. Yeah, Jim did too. I saw it. Great. And then that's like that little connection that you had with them, and that might be all you need to say to that guy all class, because that person just needed the connection and something to aspire to, and you killed it, and you got it by in the general warm up. Now, it can also get you to see how people are moving and their competency, and you can be like, oh, I'm going to have to, maybe make a progression change or something like that. And then we move into our skill specific, and having a really good plan for the skill specific is going to be super important. So if you have a varied class, you have to have progressions that allow for, we call them like bus stops. Essentially, they're places that as you move through the progression, if someone's not able to complete beyond it due to complexity or due to just the difficulty of the movement, then they can stop there and get off and just keep doing what they were currently doing. It'll still improve them. So that's kind of the beauty of any given progression, is that it should have
Mm-hmm.
places in it where you can hand people off and say, cool, we're going to move on to this next step. If you don't feel like you can do it, we're going to stick on the same step you were just at. And basically teach the next step, and then okay, we're going to go back out and try this thing, whether that be for this becomes especially important in gymnastics movements like that are like
Mm-hmm.
muscle ups and handstand walking and blah blah blah, like that are super high level. You have to have really succinct bus stops that like, okay, this is where you're going to stop before you head off. Um, but it can also be in things like barbell movements where it's like, hey, we're going to do now a hang squat clean. If you don't feel comfortable dropping to the bottom of the squat, just receive it in that power position and stay there, because that was the part of the progression previous that you were just at. So you can do those kinds of things and build really well thought out progressions that will allow for people to get off at those places. And then that allows you to advance them relatively quickly, and meet people wherever they're at. So somebody who's advanced can move all the way through it, and somebody who's less advanced can stay further back. And you can still, within somebody who's working further back, adjust their movement. You can still, somebody who's
Mm-hmm.
maybe someone's doing a power clean, someone's doing a squat clean, you can still talk about, walk by and tell them to keep the bar tighter. You can tell them to keep their elbows longer for longer. You can tell them to extend their hips harder. You can tell them to stay flatter in their foot. Like all those cues still apply to earlier on in the bus stops, but it's just they're not going to keep going further because it's
They're
not
not there yet.
appropriate for them. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
not there yet. So I'd say that's the main way that you navigate that, is just having really good plans going in and very early on checking in and validating people and letting them know that you're going to be there for them regardless of what's happening. And then coming through on those words and creating places that you can meet them and validate them. But that takes planning. If you are inexperienced and you don't plan, you are going to screw up and you are going to offer a subpar class. Like that's just the reality. Like you have to plan if you're inexperienced, and you have to go in with like a vision of like, this is what I want to happen. And I'm telling you now, it's also going to go wrong, and that's okay. But if you have a plan and it went wrong, you can go, okay, let me adjust my plan. If you go in with no plan, and it goes wrong, you're like, I don't even know where it went wrong. Like, I don't know. Let's try it again. It's like you got to plan, man. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm not a good planner. Like when I used to coach in the beginning, I never planned. I just show up and wing it. And my development was stunted for years. The time I really got good was when my wife wrote lesson plans. When her plan was like, hey, here's what you do. Now you figure out how to do it. And I was like, all right. And I watched my coaching skyrocket in its capacity. And that was why we actually launched our affiliate programming company. We were the first one to put out lesson plans. I swear she was the first one to ever write lesson plans in the entire CrossFit community.
Wow.
And because the original days, I don't remember back in 2000, like 2001 to 2010 almost, nobody wrote lesson plans. It was just like, here's the workout, coach, figure it out. You write your own thing. If you're good at writing lesson plans, you're good. If you were like me, you'd show up and you'd be like, all right, everybody, take a 400-meter run. We're going to figure this out. So it's just like subpar classes. So I'm going to be honest. I'm not good at planning. And so if I have to, I'll have somebody plan for me, and then I'll execute on that plan.
I think with CAP specifically, you have everything
Yeah.
written out for you, so it's done and you are ready to rock and roll. I
Mm-hmm.
know, so we talked a little bit about the knowledge. You run the knowledge. You've actually given us some stuff to put in the HSN mentoring platform for the knowledge.
Yeah.
Want to talk a little bit about that? So gym owners, nutrition coaches in the HSN family have some new
Whoop,
bonuses.
whoop.
Yeah, I'm super
Yeah.
excited about it. What did
Yeah.
you give us? What's available for them?
Well, I just know that like the people who sign up for what you do understand that a lot of what we do just transcends the gym. And it's so much about affecting lifestyle and going deeper. And, it's been I don't know if you've looked at all of Glassman's old stuff, but like even the very beginning, 2001, like, have you seen the Foundations article? Like the line that it has in it that talks what, about nutrition being part of CrossFit. It's not like something that we added on. It's like the CrossFit method involves addressing nutrition. Period. Like it's part of the foundation. Um, anyway, so I love what you guys do, and I know coaches that use what you guys do are already looking to change people on a deeper level. It's not just about what comes through there. So I just wanted to give things that would potentially help them out. So we have a little playlist of some fun videos that are inside the knowledge that you don't have to sign up to use. It's just a free playlist of some great content from different people who've added stuff to our platform, as well as myself in there, that are just a fun watch through just in your own free time if you choose to go through it. We also have a few little like downloadable giveaways that I thought were really awesome. The ones that we gave you guys, I actually made them specifically for you guys. I've used them in the past, but I made your very own custom ones. I want to see exactly where the new ones. They were fun because
You gave us some stuff. What happens, and this was actually helpful for us when we switched to CAP. There were some classes early on where we ended early. You're like, hey, Nicole, if
yes,
stuff ends early, this is the perfect thing for you so that people aren't walking out super early. These are some
yes,
finishers that people could
yeah.
have.
So I gave you the finishers. I know I
Yeah.
gave you the finishers, which was basically 30 workouts that my wife wrote. And this was, again, things that were written for me because Pat would sometimes blow it. And I unofficially titled it the OSHIT. I finished class early. What do I do? And that was centered around 30 workout finishers that vary in time from like under 5 minutes to about 10 minutes, of different things that require no gear or some gear. They're not like blowout workouts, but they're things like if it's appropriate at the end of a day and you actually finish early, you can just like flip this open and go through and pull a finisher. And they're all fun and things that people can do together. So we gave them that one. We did the icebreakers. And the icebreakers was actually a list that I used to use at warm up and workout when I would just help people out with starting classes off. We used to do it every day when I was running NorCal. But it would, you say your name and say question of the day. And I found my coaches asking some really weird questions that were wholly inappropriate. And I was like, you know what? I say coaches, I did it. I accidentally asked a lot of questions that were inappropriate. So
That's so
I
funny.
went to, yeah, it was a bummer. Like there's just things that you do that you're like, oh my gosh, did I seriously just do that? Like, what did I do? I did one. I think I said, say your name and like the name of the first person you kissed. And it was like there was so many ways that could go wrong that I didn't plan for, like, and they all went wrong, like, grown adults being like never been kissed, and I'm like, oh, cool, well, we'll discuss that in the beginning of class. Good, 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 like, or like I'm outing people in class and I'm like, oh no, like that's not what I was telling. I am so sorry that this was touchy for you as a thing. So in an effort to avoid that, I wrote a list of questions while sitting on a plane, 150 icebreakers that were just like things you can ask that are far more appropriate than some of my questions that I previously did. I also did in there the origins, the PDF. Did you look at that at all?
I haven't had a chance to look at that one yet. Now I'm excited to look at it.
So the Origins PDF is CrossFit.com has programmed workouts since 2001. So like literally 2001 up till now, they've programmed workouts on .com, and they have never missed really. And when people say CrossFit's too expensive, I'm like, it's been free since 2001. Like going to a gym is expensive, but the actual program you could get online. But in 2001, that was Glassman. And 2001 all the way through like 2009, I want to say, it was solely Greg Glassman. So those original years are golden. And they're really, really, really cool because you can see the evolution of some of the refinement of the language as well as the theory behind it. as well as a kind of its application in a gym setting versus just at home. But those original years, specifically the one that I sent you, which is 2001, you can find on CrossFit.com, but they're in this big archive. You have to like go back and like select it and scroll to the bottom, and then you're reverse scrolling up, and it was just hard to access. So I had a
Yeah.
VA team pull the entire first year. And then all of Greg's comments. So Greg wrote these comments next to it of like what his thought process were around like some of the content there. And so it's all of the very first year of CrossFit, and some of the
Wow.
language is fascinating. The workouts are fascinating. Like there's a lot of stuff you would never see these days. But
Yeah.
I think it's really valuable to go back and just check out.
Cool. Now I'm excited to look at it after this. In the show notes, we will put the link to all of the giveaways that you guys have and anything else in the platform that it is involved with the knowledge. So thank you for giving all of our coaches and gym owners that. As we wrap up today, any final thoughts about coach development? Any final words any wisdom you'd
Um,
like to leave with our listeners?
Yeah, man, it's a process. I mean, like I want you to view all of coaching and coach development is like the goal is to have better members, and better means they live higher quality lives. So in the end, the outcome of a good coach or the outcome of a good coaching developer is basically clients who live a better life. And so when we're looking at that, there's many different ways we can examine what that means. Does that mean they live a better quality of life with regards to movement? Great. Then we have to love them via how good we make them move. Does it mean they live a better quality of life due to quality of living with regards to weight loss as well as health markers and all that kind of stuff? Great. Then we have to make them move better as well as make them go harder and push their potential. Awesome. Do we live a better quality life than just like having a great day and having a better mindset? Then we need to treat them well. We need to make them have fun. We need to make them have joy and come back for harder things and face hard things over and over again and make it in a way that's digestible. Like, and there's so many ways that we can do that. It could be how we talk to them. It could be what exactly we're focusing on versus what exactly we're focusing on with regards to how we're praising them. Like, are we praising their effort, or are we praising who they are, or are we praising their clothes? Some people love that. They need that validation. We need to see them where they're at and validate and kind of like continue to progress them forward. But understand that it's a long-term game. It's like all we're trying to do is them walk out the door and be like, like I'm a better person because I showed up today. And so development and our coaching all kind of comes through that lens, and it can be many, many little steps. And that's all we're going for.
I love that. And I think thinking about all of those aspects, are they getting healthier? Are they getting fitter? Are they feeling better about themselves? Are all components of creating a great class experience, but then also making people want to come back for more
Totally.
and keeping them around for a long time, which ultimately, as a gym owner, it's what you want, right? You want to be able to keep your members around so that you can make a greater impact in their life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a funny one. Like if you attack it from the sense of like, I need you here so I can make you live a better life. And then because of that, they pay you for longer. And you're like, yeah. Versus like, I need you to pay me for longer. It's like, no, I need to provide you so much quality that
That you don't want to
your
leave.
life, yeah, your life is so good that
Yeah.
that you couldn't fathom not being here. Like
Yeah.
attack that angle. I think you'll be better off.
I love that. Pat, thank you for all that you do. I know that you've inspired so many people to be better coaches, and you're just leading in such a really amazing way to help take this next generation of CrossFit coaches so that we can all make a greater impact together. So thank you.
Heck yeah. You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So many things that Pat talked about directly relate to being an amazing nutrition coach. You might have all the knowledge in the world or all the experience, but that doesn't necessarily turn you into a great nutrition coach. We have to really listen and be the guide and work with our clients to create a customized plan. And that doesn't always happen when we're thinking about nutrition coaching, but it's so intuitive with fitness. If someone comes in that's brand new to CrossFit, we're not going to have them squat snatch on the first day. But then why, when we talk about nutrition, do we ask them to ditch 50 plus years of habits and change everything at one time and follow a strict meal plan or hit some strict macros? too big of a step, and clients are not going to be successful long-term, and we're not really building that solid foundation for health. So as you go into this next week when coaching your clients, think about how you can trickle in nutrition information. If someone asks or says something like, I'm not building muscle, or I'm really tired all the time, how can you just give them just a bite-sized information, one cue, one tip that they could think about, marinate on, and start working on over the next week? Hey, how much protein are you eating? We know that protein is really important for building muscle, and if you don't feel like you're getting stronger, we probably need to look at the other 23 hours of the day. What's happening outside of the gym? And if you are interested in doing our nutrition coaching program, we would love to be able to help you. You can come over here and click this QR code and book a discovery call so we could talk a little bit more about how it works and see if it's a good fit for you. Simple and super effective. Your clients already love and trust you, and you just need to help them connect the dots between what they're doing inside of the gym, the hard work that they're doing, and everything that's going on outside the gym to ultimately reach their health and wellness goals or slow them down. I hope this podcast was really helpful. Make sure that you download the knowledge and those freebies from Pat. And don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and we'll see you back here next week.